When I was younger, it didn't matter. Do everything, capture everything, go hard in 100 different directions. It doesn't matter. Everything will work, and if it doesn't, who cares? And now, as I get older, I look and I say, okay, like, how much of a priority is this? You know what I mean? Like, what impact will it have? What will this do for me? What will this do for the people I care about? Where will I be in 2 years because of this decision? And if the answers to those questions are aligned with what I'm trying to achieve and the answers I want, then I'll pursue. But if not, it's about what can I let go of and still grow further to maintain peace.
Welcome to the Adriana Ostapenko podcast. I'm here with Evan. I feel like it's actually probably one of the first times we're chatting here, Evan, and I'm so excited to dive into some conversations. I use this podcast very selfishly to get to know interesting people that are shaking and doing things in the real estate world, in the business world, in the fitness world too. So I'm very excited to talk about all of it. It sounds like you do quite a bit of things. I started this podcast because when I started in real estate investing, I knew nothing about real estate, and it has changed my life in more ways than I can count. So I figured if I can give any tip, advice, any inspirational thoughts here that would allow somebody else to take the same journey that I have, that's really the goal of this podcast. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to share any and all knowledge that I can, and I totally agree with you. Like, talking to people in the industry is where I've gained a lot of my knowledge as well, right? There's only so much you can sit down and read before practical knowledge really becomes what you need. So
100%. Tell us who you are. Tell us a little bit about what got you here, and where do you spend most of your time right now?
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, my name's Evan Ungar. I'm a real estate investor. We're doing a bit of development now, getting into some bigger projects. I'm an owner at Tuck Capital and Tuck Developments, and we're fully integrated. We have our own renovation company, Choice Renovations Canada, and that's actually outward facing. So we predominantly do renovations for investors. So, if you're looking to add a unit or renovate an entire apartment building or anything in between, we do those every day. So more than happy to help there. We have our own property management company, but that's internal facing only. So, we kind of do a bit of everything in the real estate space. My business partner on the renovations company is Jordan King and Josh Wilson. And on the real estate holdings and development, it's Jordan and myself. And so we started a long time ago just doing some consulting, actually, like helping businesses who needed money find people who had it. And then one day someone came along in the real estate industry and said, hey, I need a second mortgage. And can you help me find it? And we said, we'll loan you some money for it. And then we sat back and said to ourselves, like, how is this person making money and borrowing at this cost? And we kind of sat there and was like, all right, we should figure out like what's happening here. And so we said, we'll lend you this, but you teach us this. And the rest is history. We learned a bunch there, and then we went off on our own, and we've been doing it ever since. So it's been an amazing adventure.
I love that. It sounds like, what's your background? Like, what were you doing before you got into all of this?
Yeah, I've been in health and wellness for since I was in college. I mean, I went to school for business marketing, but never did too much with it. I've always been selling something. I love sales through and through. And so, but ended up in the fitness industry, was a personal trainer, and then I was managing a personal training department doing personal training sales. So that's kind of the background I have. And then stumbled into real estate and fell absolutely in love and jumped in to the deep end head first.
So where do you spend most of your time right now? Because I was looking through your landing page. There's quite a bit of different things that you do there, from, the fitness side, coaching, you have a capital company, a development company, renovations company. That is a lot of things, different things that you do. What does your day look like? Where do you spend most of your time?
It's exhausting. But it fuels me up at the same time. I really do love what I do. So as much as it's exhausting, it has that balance of invigorating energy that you get from it. A lot of our systems and businesses are automated. And I mean, I don't say that lightly, we don't have like robots running everything, but there's a lot of systems and tools in place and processes that, one thing, if A happens, then B and then C. So a lot less on my plate than you'd imagine when you look through like what we're doing right now. So that's really good. And you know what? I have amazing business partners. I have amazing people in our companies and networks, and they make this, a lot more fun to run and a lot more smooth to sail with. So
Awesome. I love that. Let's dive into real estate for a minute here, because things have changed in the real estate market.
a lot.
And it's funny, I tell colleagues of mine in real estate that, I had an experience the down market since I got into real estate. I've also been in real estate sort of the similar amount of time as you have from your bio there. I got into in 2016 and, have been growing from different things, from doing smaller multifamily burrs in Hamilton, doing quite a few of those, and then jumping into the larger multifamily buildings. And that's been our focus over the last few years. And, grew a portfolio, and things have significantly changed in the last, just say, like 12 months to 18 months.
Oh, yeah.
How are you dealing with the changes in the real estate market?
That's a really big question. But I would say that my focus has been predominantly cash flow assets rather than speculative assets. We really didn't play much in the speculation market. Never in the condo market. I'm 99.999% freehold asset owner. So we're really focused on cash flow. And when the market changes, really the only thing I find that affects us the most is our ability to cross collateralize when the market changes. So otherwise, we're pretty solid. Obviously, some of our cash flow tends to get pinched a bit for if you're on a variable mortgage. So definitely went through some adjustments and pivots to keep up with the pinch on the cash flow. But if you're buying for cash flow, the market is going to go up and down often. It's always going through cycles. So if you're buying just for like speculation or for value and you're reselling right away, you're going to be hit way harder. But if you're buying for cash flow, you're not really hit as hard.
What type of properties do you have in your portfolio mostly?
Multis, like almost all multis now. I think from single families, we're probably under a dozen single families now from where we were a long time ago, having like many more of those. And now converting, we love our fourplexes. For some reason, we found fourplexes to be like a really sweet spot of single family feel with multifamily results. And so we were talking a long time ago about making a logo that was like fourplex centralized, like it was like something to do with fourplexes. But we do like our fourplexes, but we are moving to get into like larger apartment buildings, 100-unit apartment buildings, and so on. So we're having some fun, but I would say multis for the majority.
So this is so funny. As I was looking through your bio too, I thought we're so similar. I see so many similarities, even though we don't really know each other that well. When we started investing in real estate, our second deal was a fourplex. We converted a single family home to a fourplex in Hamilton, and I loved it. I'm like, that fourth unit was just the icing on the cake, was pure cash flow.
Yes.
And then from there was fourplexes all the way. I'm like, I got spoiled on the very beginning, and I'm like, I'm not leaving fourplexes space. And we do have one triplex in our portfolio. The intention was to convert it into a fourplex, and we ended up changing our minds because the basement took way more work than we wanted it to. And that's the least performing property in our portfolio, is that triplex. Everything else, our fourplexes did really amazing for us. And I'm very happy we got into the larger multifamily space, because now when I look at our portfolio across all the different properties that we have, the biggest thing that I notice, especially during this time, is the larger the building, the better they're performing. There's just more cash flow. There's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree. I think, excuse me. I think one of the things I like talk about often is cash flowing properties in Southern Ontario. It's almost like fourplex is the minimum. And so we talk about like this, and there's a million ways to invest in real estate. There honestly is a million ways to do it. So you can cut this pie as many different ways as you want. And we've participated in so many different models of investing. But when I look at it from a cash flow perspective, you find duplexes in Hamilton, they're probably not cash flowing. You find triplexes in Hamilton, they're going to be really tight on the cash flow, really tight. Like anything goes wrong, someone doesn't pay rent, you have an extra vacancy, like you're in the negative. And then you get into this fourplex space and you're like, this I can breathe, and it makes sense. The values make sense. From a value standpoint, it makes sense to intensify those properties to 4 units, because your cost to build is still going to be less, or even probably less than half, I would argue, of what the value would be of that unit. And so you still get the lift in the appreciation, and you're definitely getting the cash flow. So it makes sense, and it's kind of like that minimum standard to get cash flow in Southern Ontario.
As you said, you've tried many different strategies in real estate. What is the one that you like the most, and why?
I love I love the Burr strategy beyond anything else. And I like the Burr coupled with cash flow, like debt service ratio. So I think like if I'll give anybody the biggest tip ever, it is, and it's so glaringly obvious, but it's, I would say, overlooked the majority of the time, especially for like new investors, is people will invest using the Burr strategy, but they never pay attention to the debt service ratio on completion, because most people are financing it from a comparable approach with like personal income. So, and then you have like people who do joint ventures, and they're like looking for people who will qualify personally for these properties. So they Burr in Southern Ontario. Let's say they're going to do a single family to duplex conversion. They buy the single family for 400,000. They put 150 into it. They're in 550, and it's worth 750, whatever, on completion. So you hit your 80% all-in cost to loan to your appraised value. And let's say the person is approved for that financing, you get to lever that property 80%, but then you're losing money every month because you're not cash flowing. And so it's like, it's great if you're going to sell it, but then it's not a Burr, it's a flip. And I think people really often overlook that, and they end up in a situation where they can qualify for a couple properties, but then all of a sudden, they've pulled out a few $100,000 above where they bought it. They clear their construction costs. They have 20% equity in it, but they're losing money every month. They have their original money back, so they can pay into it, but then they go to do the second and the third, and they very quickly realize it's not sustainable. So my advice and favorite model is that the Burr model is very successful for a reason, but you have to be able to debt service 1.2. If you have a good lender relationship, maybe 1.1, but I would always conservatively estimate 1.2 on completion. And that's how the property will sustain itself and you get your money back. So sounds simple, but most people overlook it.
I love that. I think to your point, paying attention to the exit strategy from the beginning is just as important. And that's really what you're saying. Like, make sure your exit strategy is solid from day one. I think when the market was going up and up and up, I think there was an overlooking of that, and just saying, hey, like, it's by the time I'm done, it's going to be worth so much more because it's going up like crazy every month. And obviously when the market turned, a lot of people got caught on like hoping that it was going to go up, and it didn't. Now what? Like, now what do you do? The other thing is there's cash flow, and there is, scaling your portfolio. Those are really two separate things. A lot of real estate investors start with the intention of like, I'm going to buy properties and I'm going to live off the cash flow. Like, as long as you're refinancing those properties, there is going to be no cash flow. Like, you're just maintaining the property because you're like refinancing to either pay back construction loans or buy your next deal, or pay back yourself for the money that you put in. So you kind of have to choose one or the other here. You could go through a period of scaling, making sure that it's, cash flowing enough to support itself. and then let them get paid off at some point. Otherwise, there will never be cash flow as long as you're constantly like leveraging. It's really a choice of what is the individual investor's goal in the long term.
I think you're like dead on with that, and people like glorify real estate investing as like I'm gonna get 3 properties and I'm gonna live off of them. And it's like, yeah, listen, it's possible. I mean, depending on what your lifestyle costs, right? It's possible. Say you're buying in Northern Ontario, or you're buying in New Brunswick, where there's better cash flows rather than Southern Ontario. Southern Ontario is going to be very hard to live off the cash flows of of 2 or 3 properties that the average person can purchase if they can. But even then, it's like I think people think you're on like a duplex in Southern Ontario. I'm going to make look, my rental income's $5,000 a month. And you're like, that's great. Like, what's your mortgage rate now? Like, oh, 4,000. Yeah. What's your property taxes? What's your insurance? What's your maintenance? It's like, you're cash flowing $50 a month. It's like, all right, well, yeah. So that's why I like the fourplexes. Like you said, you kind of like break even at the triplex area. And then that fourplex, that 4th unit is really like the profit on top. But yeah, you definitely hit it on the head. You got to have your exit in plan, and you need to be really realistic. Like, there's so much software and so many spreadsheets you can run these numbers with and really see what you're going to net out. And then even then be more conservative on top of it to make sure you're not in hot water.
So where is the cash flow at?
Yeah. New Brunswick, apparently. Cash flow is where I like to say cash flow is where you can buy for still around or less is better to say, less than the cost to build. Like, if you can buy in an area where it's cheaper to buy and renovate than it is to build, you're most likely going to find yourself in some good cash flow. Cash flows in the multifamilies, cash flows wherever you make it. Like, you can still cash flow in Southern Ontario. I just bought another 4 units in St. Catharines that will cash flow beautifully, but you cash flow on the deal, and then you cash flow when you renovate, and make sure you don't overpay for your renovation. So where's the cash flow? Make sure you're buying with a cap rate that's above the current interest rate. Like, if you can buy and end up with an effective cap rate like 2% higher than the current interest rate, you'll most likely be cash flowing, or you will be cash flowing.
How many of your, like, I guess because you do different things, like, where do you spend your time? Were you able to produce like income from your other businesses?
Yeah, I mean, our renovations company is outward facing. We do a lot of renovations for investors. We're known for our speed, which is really important to investors. Like, I mean, myself, right? The company was born out of necessity, not out of like desire. And it's become like a very exciting company to be a part of. So we get to see some incredible projects. We get to work with incredible people, and we get to see people's visions just come to life. It's very, very exciting to see. I love, like, one of my favorites was a really simple project we did in someone's like living room. They needed a full living room revamp. It was for a primary residence owner, and they just sent us a picture of the magazine. And I'm not kidding you. Like, when that thing was done, it was almost identical. And I was like, this is the rewarding side of things. They're like, I showed you a magazine and now it's here. It's like, yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, the renovations company is a big one. The property management company that we have internally, it's not a profit generating company, but if I were to compare the amount of money I would have spent on a third-party property management versus what it cost me for my infrastructure for property management, it's a massive amount of money. So if you consider that profit, which I would, it saves a ton of money. And then, yeah, we're flipping in a good market. We'll flip more often. We'll do a few flips a quarter, and that just helps us inject more money into our holdings. So.
Awesome. I love that. I haven't done flips. I have a construction company as well. So I said we seem like so similar in so many ways. It's local here. When we were operating in Ontario, it was, supporting our business. But like I said, I'm kind of out of Ontario now. So or have been for a little while. So we're just outward facing at this point, and just working with clients and end users as well, not only investors but like homeowners that want to put a basement suite, things like that.
Yes.
And that's really where we get cash flow in, and like have these accessory businesses that support. um, I also find I do my property management. We have property management here in Ontario, but we don't do it. We have my business partner sort of owns that company out in New Brunswick. And where I see the huge value is really like having control of your assets and having control of the performance of it. Because otherwise, like when we had a third party in there, it was so hard to maintain the performance that we wanted to see in our buildings until, we kind of took over internally. Again, it's his company, but we operated together, and he has an invested interest in everything that he does. So that makes a massive difference.
And no one cares. No one cares about your properties as much as you do. At the end of the day, that's as simple as it is. And like, we've found some great property management companies along the way, but ultimately, their job is to fill all the units they have, not just yours. Your job is to fill just yours. So, when you look at the amount of energy and focus that goes into it, you probably fill yours faster as long as you have the systems in place. So I don't want it to be misconstrued. Like I don't recommend people doing their own property management unless they have the systems in place. I still learn every day from having our own property management company. Like there's so many small, especially Ontario, so many small intricacies that if you like mess up at all, your landlord tenant board experience goes from a year to 2 years very quickly. And people don't understand that like professional tenants take pride on finding these like small mistakes. But also just it's a lot of time that you put into it. And so if you don't have contractors, if you don't have resources, you don't have your own legal team, you're a paralegal, and you don't have your own, lease up agents and realtors who can help you with these things, like hire a property manager for 5%. It's worth it. You know what I mean? But if you have these things and you know what you're doing, then yeah, once you scale, it becomes worth it.
So true. And this is why I don't desire owning a property management company. That being said, I'll never say never.
Yeah.
Definitely a really tough business to be in. It takes a really special kind of person to deal with it day to day.
Yeah.
But when you own a real estate portfolio, there's such an amazing benefit as long as you can get the right team members, the right systems in place. There's such a great benefit of owning a property management company. Good. Is there any specific wellness practices that you think contribute to your success as an entrepreneur?
I mean, I eat really well. I meal prep as often as I possibly can. Um, and just working out in general. Like it doesn't matter too much what you're doing. Just get out and do something physical. Your body will thank I am a firm believer that your brain is really directly correlated to how healthy your body is, right? Like your bodily function is function. So if your physical body is functioning better, your brain will be able to function better. And you're going to either think of a couple things, right? You're going to think about how torturous maybe, or how much time or how much effort it takes to get into the gym and do what you got to do. Or you're going to think about how you're not feeling well, you're not strong, you're not energized, and maybe, the health problems that are coming, your joints hurt, you're aching, your posture's poor, like whatever it is. So you choose which time you're going to spend thinking about it, but one way or another, your health is going to be thought about. So
I love that. I went through a transformation over the last, I've been working on more consistent the last couple of years. But over the end of last year, I had an accident on my hand and couldn't use my right hand for, about 12 weeks.
oh
Had to
wow.
get surgery and couldn't make it out to the gym. And was really a wake-up call for me of, although I think I was wanting to make health a priority and saying that I was making my health a priority, but logistically, there were a lot of things that I was doing that were not like in integrity with that statement. And it wasn't until I had this like health scare or accident that I was like, oh my gosh, like we just take it for granted and I need to like up my game here and really actually prioritize my health. So I feel thankful for that, even though it was crazy and scary and stuff. But got back to the gym, feeling stronger than ever, so this is
Good
so
for you.
important.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's always good to hear like the bounce back stories, it gives you better perspective, it grounds you, and it lights a fire sometimes, remotivates you, right? So it's great.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I have a couple more questions for you and then we'll wrap it up. I wanted to
Great.
talk about business in general. Like, tell me about what would you say has been your greatest learning in business in the last year?
Focus has been my biggest lesson that continues to repeat itself over and over. Um, I think as an entrepreneur, you want to grab every opportunity that comes your way. At least that's been my experience. And it's rewarded me over and over, but it's also challenged me over and over. And I find the more I focus on a path, the better I do at that path and the better the results are. And also the more peaceful I execute that path. And so focus has been like that word is the lesson.
I love that you said the word peaceful.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Elaborate on that.
Oh God. Being an entrepreneur is very stressful. It's full of anxiety. It's very stressful. I feel like every day you put your brain on the line. Every day you put your all your hard work, all your money, all your energy on the line. And um, I have become more aware of how much I value peace of mind. And like when I was younger, it didn't matter. Do everything, capture everything, go hard in 100 different directions. It doesn't matter. Everything will work, and if it doesn't, who cares? And now, as I get older, I look and I say, okay, like how much of a priority is this? You know what I mean? Like, what impact will it have? What will this do for me? What will this do for the people I care about? Where will I be in 2 years because of this decision or because of this venture? And the answers to those questions oftentimes, and then obviously the most important question is what is my goal right now? What is the main goal I'm trying to achieve? And so if those questions and if the answers to those questions are aligned with what I'm trying to achieve and the answers I want, then I'll pursue. But if not, it's about what can I let go of and still grow further to maintain peace.
I love that. I've learned a very similar lesson myself. That's why I grabbed onto that word when you said it. I feel like life can, as an entrepreneur, can feel chaotic.
Yeah.
Really, every day it's just a scramble. And I'm like, how do you maintain some sort of peace and, stability? So I've done a lot of self-development work just to knowing that there will be challenges and there will be fires to put out and there will be like things they need to deal with, but how do I maintain some sense of internal peace always, and the focus? What is your main goal right now?
That's a big question. We have some lofty goals with how many families we want to house. And there's a really specific reason we word it like that. I think a lot of people have goals of how many doors they want or how much money they want to make. And we're big believers of legacy and leaving an impact. And so we believe housing families is really going to take care of everything else that we're interested in. So we have a really big goal of number of families we want to house, and just we're aggressively pursuing it right now. So our focus is housing a couple thousand families, and we think it's going to be so rewarding. We're going to pull it off. We're going to leave an amazing brand with it. I think people will want to live in the houses that we have, so it'll be exciting.
That's amazing. I love that. What inspires you?
Um, that's a great question. I I have like I really want to take care of my family. I really want to take care of my extended family. This has always been something like my deep why has always been my mom. Like she's just the most incredible woman and she works so hard. And I'm building my own family and I want to take care of them just as much, if not more. And I think it comes down to like what life I want to be able to live and provide, and that wakes me up in the morning and gets me out of bed before my alarm. So,
Yeah. I can relate that to that so well. When I first started in real estate, my big why was my mom. We immigrated from Brazil. She's a single mom. She brought two of us over, and we had the immigrant life was really tough, from learning language to starting from scratch. We've been through a lot and learned a lot to how to survive here and how to like make who we are today. And she ended up moving in with me when my kids were really young, like very tiny, because she
wow.
got a mental health issue, and she moved in with me. And I felt this like huge responsibility. I'm like, how do I, not only do I have to support my family, my kids, but like I know I'm gonna have to eventually, even if not now fully, like support her and give her like a chance, pay back, and like, really, how do I create wealth that overflows, that it's not just about me and my like immediates, because that's important, but how do I create wealth that overflows into like so many others around me? And that was really my first why to get into real estate.
It's beautiful. I love it. I
I
love it.
love that. Okay, last question for you.
Yeah.
Um, if you had the world's attention for 30 seconds, what message would you share with everybody?
Wow. What a question. Do you ask everybody that question at the end? That is
Yes.
quite an amazing question. Um, I would I would tell people that they should imagine wilder than their wildest dreams, and then they should make a firm decision to chase them and just go after it. That's
I
what I
love
would.
I love that. It speaks to my heart. Evan, thank you so much. How can people get involved with you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me anywhere. You can evanungar.com has all the ways to get a hold of me. But you can reach out to me on Instagram, Evan Evan Ungar Ungar for some social media. My website, you can email me. You can catch me anywhere. My number's out there too. Feel free to call me anytime.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I'm sure go check out Evan's. We're going to put all your info out there, your handles and everything, so people
Thank
can
you.
come and find you and touch base. Thank you for your generous time today and sharing all your knowledge and info. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with others so we can continue to together really make an impact, that it's very possible to create the life of your dreams. And there's so many ways to do it. So stick with us on this journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.